During a 4-hour virtual meeting with prospective investors in May, founder told participants on the call that a condition of investing in DeepSeek was a promise not to poach the startup staff or encourage them to start their own companies. And from Reuters, exclusive, U.S. holds off blacklisting China's DeepSeek and more than 100 firms deemed a security risk. So there you go. We were gonna put 100 firms on a national security blacklist. Now we're not going to do that. So that's a win, or maybe it's a loss.
搞笑，太搞笑了！平时天天叫嚣着要和中国搞科技冷战的华盛顿老爷们儿，居然在关键时刻集体认怂了。最近，美国老牌科技网红以毒舌犀利著称的伊莱连发2条视频，把美国政府的脸都给抽肿了。路透社爆出大瓜，美国内部明明去年就把中国 AI 巨头 DeepSeek 和长鑫存储等100多家企业定性为所谓的国家安全威胁，结果现在特朗普政府却隐而不发，连黑名单都不敢让他们上，理由竟然是怕局势升级。正如伊莱讽刺的，这不就是典型的一脚踢在对方要害上，发现对方是个200斤的壮汉，自己要挨揍了，又赶紧缩手高喊要和平吗？而且咱们 DeepSeek 也是够硬气，想投资我就必须签署不准挖人的协议，否则拿着你的钱滚蛋，真解气！让我们赶紧上正片。
During a 4-hour virtual meeting with prospective investors in May, founder told participants on the call that a condition of investing in DeepSeek was a promise not to poach the startup staff or encourage them to start their own companies. So, coming from CNBC, quote, "No poaching our people," China's AI behemoth DeepSeek reportedly tells investors. We'll see how it goes. China's DeepSeek has a precondition for its $7.4 billion maiden fundraise, no poaching the AI lab's talents. And that's the bigger problem, right? But poaching the staff, that's a bit déclassé for anybody. Not that they don't do it, but it is déclassé. The bigger problem is this whole idea of like, hey, have you thought about creating your own startup company? Look, we could invest in your startup company, right? And then that drains their staff. The unusual talent poaching condition underscores how the contest among Chinese tech giants to build advanced AI and eventually AGI has tipped into open competition for engineers. DeepSeek reportedly closed its first external funding round this week, which valued the company at more than $50 billion and made it China's most valuable AI-only startup. Oh, think about that. $50 billion, and that's their most valuable AI-only startup. The startup, which had turned down outside funding since its inception to focus on research instead of commercialization, sought the latest fundraise after losing a number of key researchers to rivals. And so that's going to be a big question here. Like if DeepSeek or whatever, if they're doing so well, why are they doing this fundraising round? And basically the issue is with investor money, you can pay your engineers more. One of the big problems we have going on in this whole AI fraud right now is there's so much investor money out there. These companies get the investor money and then they throw the investor money at AI engineers. And now here's the deal, right? You get hired by this AI company, let's say $500,000 a year. This other AI company over here, basically doing the same crap, then offers you $750,000 a year. Huh. Okay, well, you jump over to that company. And then another company offers you $1 million a year. Then you jump over to that, right? If people are going to be offering you like a lot more money to basically do the same job, you're going to jump to other places. One of the big problems a lot of these AI companies have, right? And this is a problem with the AI fraud. This is a problem with the AI insanity that's going on right now. Is even if a company is trying to be reasonable, even if a company is trying to be smart, they can actually be killed for being reasonable and smart, right? Look, we are going to focus on revenue, we are going to focus on profit, and so we are going to pay commensurate with a reasonably successful technology company, right? You're not poor. You're not poor. I'm not saying you're gonna be living in an efficiency apartment. I'm not saying you're gonna be driving to work in a Chevette or anything, right? You're gonna have a nice car, right? You can have a low grade BMW. You can have an apartment in the really nice apartment building. Maybe not the penthouse, but maybe in the middle floor or something like that. But the problem is even when they pay well, even when they pay an amount that should be reasonable, if all these other companies out there have more money, then your talent's gonna get poached. And so DeepSeek is out there. They're trying to get more money so that they can pay their engineers more. So hopefully their engineers don't leave, and they don't want their own investors to poach their own employees. And I think that's the thing here. Like the big takeaway from this particular article, if you're a startup founder or whatever else, is to realize most of the time investor and founder priorities do not align, or they don't align necessarily as well as you think they align, right? Again, that's a big thing here with this whole poaching, right? If an investor is investing in you, you wouldn't really think about them trying to poach your employees, right? Okay, you're buying equity in my company so that we can be successful. Why would you try to strip away my most valuable employees? Well, because in the game your game is about shipping product, increasing the value of your company. Their game is about increasing the number of startups in the field, with hopefully one of them becoming the next Google. So even when they want you to be successful, that doesn't necessarily mean they align in the ways that you think they do. We hear a lot about DeepSeek, apparently pretty successful. Apparently, a lot of people are using DeepSeek. Think about this, right? This is an AI model company, and it was valued at $10 billion less than Cursor. So SpaceX just bought Cursor for $60 billion. An AI IDE got valued at $60 billion in the United States. An actual model creator in China got valued at $50 billion. What do you think about that disparity in, basically value there? So coming from Reuters, exclusive, U.S. holds off blacklisting China's DeepSeek and more than 100 firms deemed a security risk. So there you go. We were gonna put 100 firms on a national security blacklist. Now we're not going to do that. So that's a win, or maybe it's a loss. I mean, it depends on what our actual policy is. Hey, can anybody tell me what our actual policy is so I can understand whether or not I think this is moving that particular policy forward? So this right here is the metaphor for my problem with what is going on with US technology and trade policy right now in 2026, and how it is just fundamentally bat crap crazy, where nobody really understands what tomorrow is going to look like. One of the things I've said for many years at this point in time is businesses don't necessarily need good regulations. They don't necessarily need a good taxation system. They need stable regulations and a stable taxation system. If you're going to tax me at 90%, I don't think that's a good idea, but at least I know what that number is, and I can try to figure out how to make it work, right? If you have some kind of regulatory system where I'm not allowed to buy, any products with a C in its name, I think that's a stupid policy, but I'll figure out how to make it work. One of the big issues you have in the business world is that you have to make decisions, and the consequences of these decisions are going to last for years or possible decades. When you go out there to rent a commercial property, the least you're going to rent a commercial property for is generally 5 years, most likely 10 years. Now, if you're like a small mom and pop business, you can probably go out and get a 1-year lease, just like you could for an apartment. That's one of the big problems that I have with the Trump administration as far as the insanity of tariffs, is tariffs are just going all over the board, right? And think about this, right? If you are a small mom and pop shop, you buy $100,000 in inventory from China, you get that $100,000 of inventory in, and now it's going to cost you $125,000 to be able to actually bring that into your store. That can be a real problem, right? When we start looking at these tariffs, like 25% tariffs, 50% tariffs, even 10% tariffs, right? If you're looking at $500,000 of inventory coming in, if there becomes an additional 25% tariff on that, that's $125,000 in taxes. That's right. the MAGA Republicans are drowning small businesses in onerous taxes. Because obviously that's what the Republican Party stands for, I guess, right? But think about it, that's $125,000. That is not simply the salary for a warehouse worker or for a cashier. That would be the salary for a manager. All of a sudden, you may not be able to afford a manager because you're now paying those taxes. But then 2 months from now, maybe all the tariffs go away. And then they come back by half, and then they go away, and then they come back by 3 times, and then they go away. And the problem that you run into is basically, how do you plan for these types of things going into the future? You add onto this type of thing, the tariffs, our animosity with China vis-a-vis this whole AI war debacle that's going on. And it's just getting to be weird. Like right now, right? So NVIDIA was selling GPUs and all the hardware they can sell to China, up until a few years ago when Biden steps in. And then, right, we start getting export controls, and then we have Trump. Trump just massively shuts down the ability for NVIDIA to be able to export equipment into China. But then, since the revenue is going down, the sales of NVIDIA is going down by so much, then they say, well, you can actually sell these H200 GPUs into China. But now China's kind of skittish, so they don't want to buy the H200 GPUs. And so the interesting thing now is that Jensen Huang is basically going to China, and he's begging the Chinese to buy their CPUs. There's these Vera CPUs, they're ARM-based CPUs designed specifically for AI tasks. And it's just like so weird, right? Like 5-6 years ago, Jensen Huang could sell as much crap to China as he wanted. Now there's these rules come and these rules go, and it just becomes a chaotic disaster. And the question is where are we going with this? What is the policy? What does a win look like? What does a loss look like? Do these actions further the policy or detrimental to the policy? But the issue is we're not getting policies out of our government. And so that's a curious thing with this whole blacklist deal, is we're told, okay, this is a national security concern, so these companies should be blacklisted. Again, like it, hate it, but you can understand that. But now we're being told these companies are a national security concern, so they should be blacklisted. Okay, but we're not going to blacklist them because, do we really understand why we're not blacklisting them? And it just becomes a mess. It just becomes a mess. The U.S. has held off adding China's AI startup DeepSeek, memory chip maker CXMT, and more than 100 other companies flagged as national security risks to a trade blacklist. So again, they are flagged, whether you like it or not. They've been flagged as national security risks, but they're not being added to the blacklist. According to people familiar with the matter, as the Trump administration tries to avoid escalating tensions with Beijing. Well, I'm just going to put this out here. I'm just going to put this out here. The American government can take it or leave it. But if you don't want to escalate tensions with another person, maybe you don't punch them in the nutsack. I'm just saying, it's like Trump went over, punched Z in the nutsack, and then it's like, oh, you're mad. Oh my, he's mad. Yes, he's mad. You punched him in the nutsack. How about if we don't want to escalate tensions, we stop punching people in the ball sack, and maybe we won't get into these issues. But it is hilarious here. They're like, we're trying to de-escalate the situation that we escalated. DeepSeek, CXMT, and other companies were approved by an interagency committee last year for addition to the Commerce Department's entity list, which is being reported for the first time. Reuters is also exclusively reporting the large number of companies awaiting publication on the list. DeepSeek, whose low-cost AI model sent shockwaves through the technology world in January 2025, has supported China's military and intelligence operations, a senior U.S. Department official told Reuters last year, adding that the startup tried to use Southeast Asian shell companies to illegally access advanced U.S. chips. And this is one of the things that becomes very frustrating when we tout that our companies are integral into the military industrial complex, our AI companies, but then we shame their AI companies. Literally right now, right? So XAI has these data centers, Colossus 1 and Colossus 2. There's not enough power that goes to those data centers from the regional power authorities. So they've literally put in temporary gas generators in order to fuel data centers. So it's like 57 gas turbines that do not have permits, have no clean air permits, right? Gotten by the EPA simply to power these data centers, right? And so the NAACP is trying to take XAI to court and basically say, look, these turbines are illegal. They are literally polluting the air. They're literally making the lives of Americans worse. And they're trying to take XAI to court, right? The Department of Justice has come in and demanded that the case be dismissed, not simply come in and sided with XAI within the court case for it to be decided, however it's going to be decided within the judicial system. No, they want the court case to be dismissed outright because XAI is vital to national security. Sure, whatever. Pull the other one. Anyway, right? DOJ is literally coming in and saying, we are fighting wars and we need Anthropic and we need OpenAI and we need XAI. We need their services so that we can go halfway around the world and kill people. Like literally, right? They're just out there. They're bold, proud and bold. They're saying it. But then here, DeepSeek is being used by the Chinese military. Yeah, probably. Not arguing that. But all of a sudden, there are these massive restrictions that need to go on to DeepSeek because they're supporting the Chinese military. Think about this. I've talked about this before with the circuit boards, right? So whenever you're looking at a computer or whatever, these circuit boards, right? Everybody in the US is really focused on the chips, right? They're focused on the wafers, the AI chips, that type of thing. Nobody is focused on the circuit boards. Apparently, China manufactures all the circuit boards now. Literally, it was something like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, America, the United States, produced about 30% of the world's circuit boards, which is fine. As things go, we outsourced and we shipped all the manufacturing over to China. And so basically, at this point in time, we manufacture very few circuit boards. So everything, right? Whatever kind of computer device you have, right? Oh, here's an AI device, right? This is a Jetson, right? Whatever kind of computer device you have, it has to be soldered to a board, period. I'm just putting out here, what if the Chinese government says OpenAI is supporting the U.S. military and directly targeting China for possible military attacks in the future, right? The Pacific Pivot and the rest of it. Ergo, they don't want to sell circuit boards to OpenAI. How quickly would our entire AI industry crash if China stopped selling us the little green boards? It would get brutal really, really, really quick. But there's this idea, because DeepSeek is being used by the Chinese military. Well, right, there's a difference. Our AI companies are being used by America to kill people in illegal wars. But those are American illegal wars. DeepSeek is being used by the Chinese government to do what? As I will point out with all of this, when was the last time? Do you remember the day when you woke up and you were surprised because China was doing a bombing campaign in Argentina? Remember the day that China sent special ops soldiers into South Africa? I don't actually remember those days, right? We're told they are the really scary boogeyman that we have to stop at all costs, and yet our military is doing whatever our military is currently doing. Anywho. Let's see here. This year, Anthropic said it identified a campaign by DeepSeek and 2 other Chinese AI labs to illicitly extract capabilities from its Claude AI platform to improve their own models. And OpenAI warned lawmakers that DeepSeek also was targeting its models. Right? This is called a distillation technique. It is not an attack. I wish everybody would just stop talking about it, to be honest with you. Changjin Memory Technologies, China's top memory chip maker, was designated as a Chinese military company by the Defense Department under the Biden administration. The Commerce Department considered placing it on the entity list more than a year ago. U.S. companies cannot ship goods, software, and technology to companies on the list without a license, which is likely to be denied. And so that's the other concern with all of this, right? They're putting more and more companies on these lists. If these Chinese companies are on the list, then American companies can't sell them anything. Yes. So dear American politicians, how are we supposed to close the trade deficit when you won't allow us to sell anything to China? China's like, ooh, yeah, we would like to buy a lot of those. Oh, I'd love to sell it to you, but yeah, Congress isn't going to allow me to sell you this. Okay, well, we really like to buy a lot of these. Yeah, no, Congress isn't gonna allow you to buy that either. Oh, what about those? We'd like to buy those. Yeah, Congress won't let us sell you that either. Like, so what will your Congress let us buy? Like, I don't know. Toilet paper. You can buy our CCNA certifications. We don't want your CCNA certificate. And that's the problem that we're going to run. What we're going to run into is we're not going to be willing to sell Chinese anything that they actually want. And instead, we're going to try to sell them piles and piles and piles of our CCNA certifications. And we're going to be highly surprised when they don't want to buy them. Oh, let's see here. The Bureau uses, quote, many policy and enforcement tools, including the entity list, on a daily basis to ensure that we are combating bad actors, BIS said in a statement. Could you please define a little bit better what a bad actor is? I mean, what honest American is looking at DeepSeek going, yep, they gotta be crushed.
看完依赖的拆解，你就能彻底拨开中美 AI 大战那层虚伪的政治外衣。美国天天指责 DeepSeek 支持军工，可结果呢？马斯克的 XAI 为了发电，连环保法规都能踩在脚底下。美国司法部甚至公然站台，承认美国的 AI 就是为了去全世界杀人。这种美式双标早就成了国际笑话。更讽刺的是，美国政客天天喊着要缩减贸易逆差，却把中国想买的高科技全禁了。难道你想卖给中国泛滥成灾的 IT 证书，让人家当草纸擦屁股吗？这场科技战打到现在，真正的底层逻辑已经暴露了。中国在踏踏实实死磕硬核技术，而美国却在金融游戏的泡沫里自嗨。你看最新的市场估值，拥有真正底层大模型、震撼全球科技界的 DeepSeek 最新估值是500亿美元，而美国 SpaceX 刚收购的 Cursor 仅仅是一个套壳底层大模型的 AI 代码编辑器，估值居然吹到了600亿美元。一个做前端界面的套壳工具，居然比中国硬核的底层大模型还要贵上100亿，这就叫美式泡沫。华尔街天天崇拜资本创始人，热钱砸进来，不用心做技术，天天靠恶意涨薪互相挖角来制造虚假繁荣。而 DeepSeek 连融个资都要给资本立规矩，强逼投资人签署不准挖人的霸王条款。这就是两国的本质区别。美国已经失去了工业根基，连最前沿的 AI 科技业也彻底变成了华尔街左手到右手的数字游戏，而中国正在用最硬核、最接地气的底层模型完成地缘政治上的科技逆袭。美国如果继续抱着这种歇斯底里的种族主义垃圾政策玩下去，那在这场科技大竞赛里，自掘坟墓的只会是他们自己。